Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Well, Michael Corcoran revolutionised Ryanair's social media presence and took it to new heights across many platforms. But what was the secret to the success, and how can his new business, frankly, help other businesses to follow suit? Michael, I'd like to take you back to your school days in New Ross, as I believe that they had a big impact on your decision to pursue a creative career path.
Good morning, Carl. It's a pleasure, and hello to everyone in the sunny, maybe cold southeast. I think school and sport had a really big impact. I'm from a small village across the River Barrow called the Roaring, and New Ross would have been our closest town, so I would have spent 5 years in the Christian Brothers Secondary School in New Ross, and then after 5 years of mischief and getting into too much trouble in there, I had to go and pack my bags to the good counsel to repeat my leaving cert and make an honest livelihood of myself. But I think it was incredibly influential because in my early days, unknown to me, I would have had a lot of learning difficulties being a dyslexic and only diagnosed as an adult. I would have been in remedial English, so I would have leaned quite heavily on the arts and creative side of going through school, and in particularly in the CBS, I leaned a lot in art and musicals and flexing and compensating what things I wasn't really good at in education, and it really carved my way to be probably a critical thinker, thinking outside the box, and probably flex my creative muscles far greater than I ever thought it would. I also played a bit of sport in New Ross rugby club, and I think that was a huge impact too, because coming from Kilkenny, it was hurling or nothing in the parish, and as a young person who wasn't necessarily good with a hurling ball, I found it difficult to be, accepted and get confidence as an individual. But when I went into New Ross Rugby Club at 15 years of age, it would have given me great confidence that regardless of shape, size and ability, there was a place for everyone on the team. And funnily enough, and coincidentally enough, one important person there would have been James Susie Furlong. He'd be father of the Irish rugby player Ty Furlong, who sadly passed away there recently. He would have been one of those individuals who would have given me the confidence to be probably who I am today, and I owe a lot to it.
And where did you cut your teeth in social media marketing?
So when I finished college and the Masters, I needed to try and get my foot in the door. So I was lucky enough to get an internship in two places at the one time. One with Leinster Rugby, where I worked match day media relations, more the PR communication side of things. And then I worked in a PR agency called Wilson Hartland PR, and I would have been interning and grafting there, working on brands such as like Guinness and Smithwick's, Easton's Bookstore. And at this time, it was when social media was starting to become a thing. It was becoming a place where brands were starting to reach and communicate with people. And I guess as I was one of the younger individuals in the business, I was the one who naturally adapted and gravitated because I was one of the main users of it. And after that, I kind of hopped around from a couple of agencies within Dublin, digital marketing, social, and I just started to climb the ladder quite fast, working with lots of brands and businesses, finding creative ways to use the platforms. And after about maybe 6 or 7 years, I landed on the doors of Paddy Power Betfair, where I worked on the Betfair brand for about 3 years. And that really supercharged and unlocked me to work on such great big budget projects.
And you then went on to become head of digital with Ryanair. How did that opportunity come before you?
So funnily enough, I finished up my stints with Paddy Power Betfair, and I was looking for new opportunities, and I saw this role come up. I jumped on an interview. The interview took 30 minutes. I didn't really have to talk too much about my CV. Culturally, I thought at the time that we were very aligned, and within 24 hours of that 30-minute meeting, I got offered the job. And literally, it's probably been the thing that has elevated me to set up my own business in a very exciting time.
So when you got that job, talk to me about the approach you took in terms of getting under the bonnet of how they were operating their social channels at the time.
So it came at the time when COVID was happening, and at that time, travel was decimated. So they weren't really doing a lot, but there was dabbles and there was work that they did previous that was showing some of the learnings they did as marketeers in the past. And anyone who knows Ryanair knows Michael O'Leary, and if they know Michael O'Leary, they know his tone of voice and his disruptive nature within the media has played a huge part in brand awareness for Ryanair for many years. And after a few months of kind of diagnosing and looking at the brand insight category, what we're doing against our competitors, what some of the problems we have with our customers and how the social media landscape works, I developed a strategy that was predominantly driven around driving as much low-cost, high-return reach as possible by taking a lot of the learnings and the DNA of the disruptive brand Ryanair was for many, many years. And the second biggest problem was around changing people's perception around travelling low cost. We discovered that the perception of travelling low cost, the expectations were way too high for people, especially when you were flying from, say, London to Malaga for the price of a pint. And we felt social was going to be potentially a platform that could extend that tone and legacy that the brand had and use that as a way to create entertaining content, and baked within that very strategic and clever messages that would shift that perception around travelling low cost. And once we put the strategy in place, we assembled a really strong team of misfits, social media kind of traditional people who are known to be working on corporate brands. And then we identified people who almost were like early versions of the Mr. Beast and the creators of the world and the influencers of the world. And we put them all together to deliver a very robust, very tightly processed and effective execution to that strategy that delivered almost 2 billion impressions in an 18-month period.
And Michael, crucially in that, you also realised that there was 2 reasons why people turned to social media.
You've been well researched, I'll give you that, Carl. Like the main 2 reasons people go to social media, one is to be entertained and 2 is to escape from the chaos of life that they're currently experiencing. And a lot of corporate brands don't cater to that. They try to be this, washy, premium polished persona on social that has completely changed. And they try to land messages that are too forceful, and they don't understand how people consume it. And the reality is most people consume it in small pockets or small bursts throughout their day, whether it's on their commute, on their bus, whether it's sitting on the toilet. And if anybody likes to say they don't bring their phone, I'll call them out live on radio. And that's the reality. And there's other things as parents in busy lives that when we sit at home and our young children are in bed, we have Netflix on the television, and we're sharing funny videos with each other without even communicating. And these little bursts of serotonin and these little opportunities are the main times people consume it. But yet most brands try and do it in a forceful, passive way. Now, if you can cater to those 2 needs, you're on the right path of actually starting to grab attention, because you're not only competing with yourself with all the messages you do want or think you want to get out there, but you're competing with your competitors. And you're not only competing with your competitors, you're competing with other media outlets. And you're not only competing with other media outlets, you're competing with your sister's pictures of her dog that she took for a mucky walk down the park, or the hill climb she's done, or the lovely brunch the ladies went on and had bottomless mimosas that they shared with their friends on the internet.
When you went about actually forming this team of marketeers, what did you look for in them?
I actually needed to find people who weren't marketeers, because there's a problem with social that people have been trained in a way that isn't necessarily effective. And I almost had to break the mold and rip up the playbook that I even learned for 12 years. I needed a couple of steady hands and steady professionals who were detail-oriented and knew the platforms. But more importantly, I actually needed people who knew how to create entertaining content with cleverly baked messages at scale. So I went stalking and found creators who were very talented at not only concepting, but making and executing the content at the same time. And when I put this team together, it was really sticky and difficult at first. But once they all knew their role in how they were playing and delivering on the strategy, it eventually clicked.
And Michael, how important are ingredients like humour, speed, timing and topical content?
Well, humour is one of the things that drives entertainment, but it's not the only thing. Humour is an easy vehicle to grab attention and entertain somebody, but there are many emotions and things all brands can lean in on to try and see what is the role that they can play on somebody's news feed. In terms of timing, if you're trying to be reactive in jumping and newsjacking on things that are happening in the world, timing is everything, because it's almost getting like first advantage or leader advantage, that if you get there before everybody else, there's a higher chance people will interact with your content before everyone else's. And once that happens, it almost sends a signal that it carries, then it can start to go, again, hate using this word, viral. And it means that you'll get more reach over time with the content. And even when content is even half cooked, timing could be equally important in actually making it work.
Why did yourself and most of your team then walk out of Ryanair?
We had no intention of going. I did enjoy the business, but the behaviour of the lead, how he wasn't able to separate professionalism with personal communication, and how he was quite abusive and personal in his delivery of his work, I couldn't really stand over it anymore. And whatever bit of integrity I had left as a professional, I needed to make sure that I and my team were protected. So I took it further. Nothing was done. So I decided to resign. And after that, 5 to 6 of my team followed suit and resigned.
So talk to us about your new business, Frankly, and the service that you now provide.
So Frankly was born after 3 lovely months of gardening leave as I set foot outside of Ryanair, and I talked to a lot of brands and businesses, and after that kind of success, I'm very privileged that a lot of people wanted to come and understand how I did it and how we as a team did it. So Frankly has been set up because there's a big problem in social media where it has been built on tactics and not on strategy. And that really scares me because there's a lot of brands and businesses that are investing time, resource and budget to use these platforms because we all understand the potential that it has. But nobody really thinks about how to effectively do it for brand or business. So my aim with Frankly is to go in and roll up the sleeves, working with businesses, almost like an extension of their team. I'll help them define a strategy, figure out their why, find a problem or a gap that it could be ownable by them, and figure out how it creatively manifests and how social media can solve it. And then after that, I'll work with them based on their realities of time, resource and budget, and how can we effectively deliver on it now and next. And then hopefully by the time I teach and coach and develop those teams, I hand the keys back and I ride off into the sunset and go on to my next mission.
And what are your thoughts on people like Gary Vaynerchuk from VaynerMedia?
Good old Gary V. I'd probably take inspiration of what to do and more importantly what not to do and say sometimes. But I jokingly refer to myself, Carl. I'm like the Aldi version of Gary V right now when it comes to social media. I'm the low-cost quality alternative to giving you the best advice. No, look, you can't hate a guy like Gary Vaynerchuk or Steve Bartlett, who has the Diary of a CEO podcast, for building what they've done. They've clearly known how to deliver effective content on the channels to reach a lot of people and change a lot of people's minds and build big enterprises off it. The only challenge with what they're doing and the effectiveness of what they're doing, and it's even a challenge for me right now as kind of more requests come in, and I'm lucky enough to have a waiting list of clients potentially wanting to work with me. But as you go beyond you as an individual consultant or the person who's the influential voice who is the most informed or has a view and a positioning about how you're going to do the work, as you grow with scale, that gets diluted by the people you hire and the people you have. And that's probably where he starts to get a bit of a reputation around the quality of the work, because as he builds a big business, he's got to hire a lot of people to do most of the work for him now. And that's kind of where he is probably losing his edge, or people might have polarizing opinions on how he does his work. But look, again, I won't take the player. If I could be where he is right now, I'd bite your arm off.
And Michael, what are the emerging trends and platforms that business owners need to be aware of?
In all reality, if I could prescribe anything to anybody right now, is go strategy first. Find the problem that you have in your business at stage it's at now. And all businesses are different in their life cycles, from startup to established. Find out if social could be that channel to solve that problem, and then find creative ways to deliver on that, whether it's organically, through paid media, or through partnerships. And when it comes to emerging things, you can find tools that can help with creative efficiencies and how you produce that content and manage that content. There are no real shortcuts, but there are ways to be more efficient with your time, your resource, and your budget. And that's where I would lean on. But go strategy first.
What tools do you recommend?
Tools, again, basic ones, creative tools like Canva and CapCut for somebody who isn't creatively strong, or people who need to create content or create messaging in a way that they don't have the time or the resource for, are two very good graphic design and video tools out there to deliver better work. AI is on the emergence, and there's loads of, again, added tools that can help improve the production of content, especially in video. You've got copy caption tools, you've got AI voice tools like 11 Labs that can help script content and use other voices in clever ways. And you've even got generative AI, which helps actually Photoshop and fix imagery automatically for you without having to be a very laborious or experienced graphic designer.
What's your outlook for the metaverse, virtual reality and augmented reality over the next 2 to 3 years?
I think it's been overfluffed. I think it's a space that brands will find it hard to establish themselves in, and they continuously try to force it. They're a lot of things like ChatGPT and certain things right now. They're shiny toys that creative people want to say that they're voices of influence and they're trying to be innovators, but it's a long way off on how that will take its role. Like social media is only in existence 15 years, and we're still trying to figure out that, and we're still failing and learning all the time. Even TV advertising is 60, 70 years, and people are still trying to figure that out. The metaverse is an experience in a space more suited to gaming. Is there ways to inject yourself into those audiences? Because a lot of people play games. There is. But again, I wouldn't be investing too much time unless the solution to a problem on a strategy I'm building was to insert yourself in that space.
Michael, finally, for anyone that's listening this morning that's considering a career in social media marketing, what advice have you got for them?
Be relentless and be curious. You're lucky as a youngster, or even somebody who's more established. Like, time and the tools is what makes us informed in what we do. We're not gurus and we're not experts. We have been paid the privilege of working a full-time job in social media. So there's nobody better than being the best informed than people who use the tools a lot. The second point, learn the basics of marketing. Learn the timeless truths of marketing and how to get better at understanding how marketing is applied in the world of social media. Not copying that like for like, but understanding how the levers of mental availability, top of mind awareness is incredibly important, or how to have physical availability, how to convert people and being physically available to sell or buy your product. Then there's other things where you can read plenty of resources around the long and short of it by Binnett and Field, great books, and then The Alchemist by Rory Sutherland. Learn from the established, well-known marketeers and then apply that to the knowledge that you're naturally learning in the world of social. And if you can marry the two of those together whilst keeping on top of how crazy social changes, because it changes every day.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was a fascinating and informative interview with Michael Corcoran, the former head of social and digital at Ryanair, and we wish him every success with his new business, Frankly.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.